Hello and welcome to the channel where we talk about all things Weiss sports and chill with friends. My name is Liam and today we're going to be talking about the Bushiroad Judge Program and the upcoming judge test. Now, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel where we talk about all things Weiss sports. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to let me know that you want more content like this, please make sure to hit that like button. As well as that, I've got 2 other social medias on Twitch and on Discord. The links are in the description below. But let's jump straight into this video. Now, for those that are new here, I am part of the Bushiroad Judge Program. I am a level 2 Weiss sports judge, meaning that I was able to be a head judge at an event such as the European Bushiroad Rumble Online back in January 22. So in order to become part of the Bushiroad Judge Program, I had to take a judge test. This basically ensured that I proved my knowledge and my ability in the game, as well as my understanding of the floor rules and certain infractions and penalties, and also, in order to get to the level 2 section, actually my ability to head judge and to basically go beyond the floor rules in order to be able to manage a team of judges and to ensure that the correct and the best fair environment is ensured for our players during an official event. What I'd like to do is give some tips, some guidance, some advice on how to perform well on the Bushiroad Judge test. Now, first of all, what does it take to be a judge? I think firstly, you have to have a passion for the game, straight up. If you don't have a passion for the game, there is no point in judging it. Secondly, you've got to be knowledgeable in the game. You've got to make sure you understand your rulings, your timings, as well as obviously understanding things like the floor rules, what to do in certain scenarios during an event. And thirdly as well, you've got to want to be proactive and excited in order to actually promote the game and to encourage the growth of our fantastic community. So in terms of actually going through the advice that I'd like to give you, I'm going to break it down into 3 sections. Firstly, what you need to know in terms of the game rules. Secondly, the floor rules. And thirdly, specifically about what the expectations of a judge really are. So starting off with the game rules, one thing I'd make sure that you are fully aware of is the actual specifics of a turn. For example, in Weiss sports, the battle step order. In both games, talking about resolution priorities and resolution decisions that could be made. Talking about things like specifics about certain card zones and interactions between them in given scenarios. That absolutely, in terms of those specifics within the game and those little minute details, are super important, because when it comes to an actual event and something gets asked by one of our players, you need to know exactly what the correct answer should be in order to ensure that the correct game state continues. And in terms of actually preparing for the test, I'd make sure that you know about specific examples. For example, Drago Buster, the 3-5 event from That Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime. What do you do when it says reveal the top 7 cards of your opponent's deck, but your opponent has less than 7 cards in your deck? What would you do? Let me know in the comments below and see if you get it right. But yes, things like that, it's important to know. There will likely be questions on the test with real cards, with their effects explained, but also theoretical card scenarios where the card effect may not actually exist in the game, but those theoretical examples will actually be testing your knowledge of the game without just knowing specific cards. And the biggest bit of advice that I can give for these game rule questions is make sure you read the question. Take the time to read it 2-3 times. You are not timed when you are doing this test. Make sure you understand the scenario exactly to make sure that you give the correct response. Now, we know the questions are going to be all multiple choice, so it will be important to ensure that you understand the question, you understand the answers to make sure you actually select the right one, because some of them might be very similar. But it's important to ensure that you select the exact correct answer to get the point. And the last final tip regarding game rules is play games. Again, get more experience in playing the game. Play with different people. Play with different people from different communities. Use Discord or to play online, or go to your local game store and play games there against multiple people. Get as much experience as you can to make sure that you are, one, invested in the game, but secondly, you actually play through scenarios that will help develop your understanding of the game. That's basically what I did when I was preparing for my 2019 World Finals. Thanks to 2 or 3 main people, I played a lot of games, and through that I learned a lot of mechanics that I didn't fully understand before going to Worlds. And that ultimately has turned me into a great judge, I think. So yeah, be sure of that and make sure you actually take the time to play games, because that's the best way to learn, by playing. Now, moving on to the floor rules section, the first thing I would do is just straight up be familiar with the advanced floor rules. Make sure that you check the link in the description below, because that will be the link to the Q&A where you can select and pick the floor rules and the comprehensive game rules as well for Weiss Schwarz and for Vanguard. So take the time to actually read those, make sure you understand the rules, and make sure you understand certain things such as, you know, what different event staff roles actually are. What is the role of a tournament organizer? What is the role of a head judge, a floor judge, just general event staff as well? What are their roles and what is expected of you during an event? Firstly, it also prepares you in terms of, do you want to sign up to be a judge in terms of what's expected of you? And secondly, it's just good to know as part of a team what everyone's jobs are and how to delegate certain jobs to make sure that, you know, everyone's happy, everyone understands their role, and we provide the best possible experience for our customers, our players. Another thing as well is to be aware of certain event formats and how the events work in terms of, you know, how many rounds of Swiss should there be based upon the number of players that enter a tournament? What should be the top cut if there is one? Also in terms of end of time rules, what are end of time rules? For example, for Springfest 2022, we've got 40-minute rounds with a 10-minute extension for time, where you get 3 turns starting on turn 0, and if at the end of those 3 turns a winner is not decided, you basically stop at the end of that third turn, or at the end of the 10 minutes, whatever comes first, and whoever has got the least damage in terms of their level and their clock, for Weiss for example, or just their damage in general for Vanguard, that person is the winner. Another thing as well is sudden death. How does sudden death work? Again, make sure you check the rules out to actually understand what to do there, and, you know, how to settle disputes on, one, when sudden death actually takes place, and secondly, what happens during sudden death. And the final, and in my opinion, one of the most important things that you've got to get down as a judge is the infractions and the associated penalties, which we'll do an entire section now in terms of what that actually is. Now, in terms of the infractions and penalties, what I personally did is take the time to actually revise the different categories of infractions and the penalties associated with them. I made a list. I literally wrote down an entire revision list, because that's sometimes how I learn best. In terms of doing tables and things like that, where I literally listed the different categories of infractions and what penalties would be associated with those infractions based upon what level of tournament you're taking part of. For example, a level 1 being just a local game store, a shop challenge, things like that, or a level 2 being a regional, or higher than that, obviously being a world finals. So make sure you understand, firstly, the different types of infractions and different categories of infractions, and secondly, what associated penalties go with those depending on the level of tournament. And finally, on penalties and infractions, what I would make sure you do is understand how to upgrade a penalty. You know, if a player does multiple infractions of the same category, how do you upgrade that penalty? And what process do you have to go through to upgrade that penalty? Who do you need to go through? Can you do it yourself? Do you have to go through a head judge or a tournament organizer? You know, being aware of that sort of thing and how to do that is just so important for a judge, to make sure, again, that we ensure the best fair play and the best environment for our players. And finally, I'm going to be talking about judge expectations. What's expected of you as a judge or a member of the judge program? Firstly, it isn't just about judging events or knowing the rules in terms of the card game or the floor rules of an event. It's about being a role model. It's about being an ambassador. It's about being a mentor for the game and the community. You know, it's important to encourage new players into the game, to take time to teach them rules. If they approach you, to not be closed off and shut people away, and to keep the community as a niche thing. It's all about expanding the horizon of our community and, you know, to increase the number of players in our game, because without that, the game wouldn't exist. So it's so important to ensure that we are a role model and an ambassador, as well as a teacher and a mentor for our games. But that doesn't mean just being all happy and pretty about the game. You know, I think it's absolutely important to be proactive and positive about the games, but also it's important to be critical when you spot something wrong. And, you know, where you think you can improve the game or improve the event format or improve event organization, if you've got something to say about that, please do. You know, make sure that we improve our game for our customers, for our players, because without that, we would never develop or evolve. and we wouldn't be where we are now. So by all means, be positive, be proactive about the game, but take the time to be critical as well and actually offer advice and feedback to Bushiroad. Now obviously it's all good me talking about my advice and my guidance and things like that, but I wanted to make sure that actually as part of this video I got other people involved, and I actually spoke to many other judges and got some quotes for them. So I'm just going to read through them here. I'm going to have them written up as well so you can read them and take your time. But I want to read them, I want to narrate them, and I want to, again, do big thank yous to those that actually offered their advice and tips. Firstly, Core from Europe said, read up, revise, and have confidence, but not arrogance. And that's important because yes, you've got to make sure you're good at the game. Yes, you've got to make sure you know your game. But there's always opportunity to learn. There's always opportunities to be proved wrong. Rules can be misinterpreted. So if someone can help you and direct you in the right way, don't be arrogant. That's the worst thing you can do. So great advice, Core. We also got some anonymous advice as well, saying be sure to sit down and read the entire comprehensive rules at least once. And the anonymous person actually said that I like using Weiss Tea Time as a resource as she has many good rule breakdowns. So shout out to Taya from Weiss Tea Time. If you haven't checked her out, links in the description below for her blog. Yeah, take the time to understand the rules. Read the comprehensive rules fully. Take that time. And also then look for other people such as Weiss Tea Time to actually, if you don't understand a rule, try and hear it from another person's perspective, because you might learn something that way which you might not have learned from just reading the actual advanced rules. So, you know, taking multiple inputs and multiple sources as terms of how the rules are is a great opportunity to fully understand those rules. We had Bran from Asia Oceana who said, again, read and understand the content whilst prepping for the test. As for judging, don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Again, we're all learning, even judges. You know, when I first judged my first head judge event for BRO 2021, I was learning the entire time whilst doing that. But I was also taking the time to make sure that we educated our judges, educated our players. So whilst you are teaching and mentoring other people, take mentorship from others as well, because it's only going to make you better. Boats Don't Sink from North America says, play games. A lot of weird ruling situations you can run into will happen just from playing. So don't stop having fun with games just because you're a judge. It can expand your knowledge and experience regularly. And again, I've mentioned that earlier, and I think that's a fantastic piece of advice. So thanks, Boats. Another couple of anonymous tips here. About 80% of all questions during a game get answered by understanding how check timings work and the order of things get resolved in. And also, simple tip, read over the question at least 2 or 3 times. Again, it's so important to make sure you understand the question, understand the answers that you've got to choose from, and make sure you select the right one. But also, again, just understanding those check timings, understanding you know, the ordering of things get resolved in will answer a lot of questions that come up during a judge situation. So if you can get that down, you'll be a successful judge. We also had Brandon from EU say, again, commit a lot of time to the test and read through the questions carefully and play out scenarios with proxies to help understand some interactions. You know, again, like we said, play games, take the time. It's what a lot of judges are recommending. And Yo from Europe says, regarding the test, although it's open book, you aren't going to make it very far as a judge if you don't actually know the rules. It's better to pretend the test is a closed book exercise and you're as prepared as possible, rather than to do the test and find you're having to look up every single answer. Again, I think that's fantastic advice. Yo is an extremely experienced head judge, and they're fantastic. So, you know, that piece of advice I think is absolutely vital when preparing for the test. Also got some fantastic advice in regards to actually when you're judging as well. So obviously if you do succeed in the judge test, you know, what sort of advice could be given to you as a judge? We have Kairos Darkblade saying, when judging, while it's good to have a strong game knowledge and comprehensive rules of your respective games, don't just focus on that. Majority of the issues that you deal with has to do with logistics, which you need to learn floor rules for. Infractions, penalties, etc. These are all important things to know during an actual judging event, in addition to your game knowledge. Again, this is why during the judge test, they do specific sections on the game rules and also the floor rules. So it's so important to make sure you've got both sides of those down before even considering judging an event. And some more fantastic advice from Gerrit in Europe, saying, when judging, carry a pen and notepad around, and also have the rules printed with highlighted important sections. Now, I think that's great because at the end of the day, we're human. We aren't going to remember absolutely everything. So having a pen and notepad to make note of certain specific things in terms of if you give a warning out or if you give a game loss out, and again, having like a summary of the rules printed out on you with the highlighted important sections is great. You can edit the document in terms of like you can make your own Word document. You can like again have specific things that you're not 100% certain on. For example, infractions and penalties. If you want to be 100% certain during a event and you want to make sure you've got it right, then by all means have something on you to help you. There's nothing wrong with that. If it makes sure that the correct ruling is given, that's all that matters. So that's so important. And some more fantastic advice from Yode said, never assume. As such, always do your due diligence to make sure that you have the actual complete picture and not an artificial one that ends up with you giving the wrong ruling. Another thing as well is that be wary of answering questions that are essentially coaching. If a play would be illegal, then you should endeavour to answer it in a way that informs both players of your ruling without leaving it a mystery. For example, if a player had a red climax and they wanted to play a red climax from their hand, rather than saying, no, that's illegal, you remind them of the rules and go for some version of, based on the current game state, there is a red card in your clock and you are level 0. This means that you are able to play any color level 0 character or level 0 event and red climaxes, but you cannot play characters or events above level 0 and you cannot play climax cards that are not red. This purely states the game state and what is and isn't allowed, and it answers the player's question, as well as giving the same information to both players. That is so key. You do not want to be accused of coaching because that detriments and potentially affects the entire reputation of the judge program. So I think when you're judging, I think that little piece of advice there from Yo is vital. It's absolutely fantastic, and again, you can see the experience from Yo there. So thank you, buddy. Really appreciate the support and really appreciate the advice that you're willing to share with us today. I appreciate this has been a very long video, and I appreciate you sticking around and making sure that you actually listen to like current judges' advice, as well as my personal advice and guidance and tips. But I wanted to make sure that we really took the time to go through those, to get other people's advice, because I think it's important. And taking all this stuff on will make you a good judge if you've got the ability to do so. And if you've ever got any questions regarding the judge program, please feel free to reach out. A lot of judges are on the Bushiroad remote fight server. As well as that, if you want to speak to me personally, you can leave it in the comments, join my Discord and ask some ruling questions on there. I'm more than happy to help. Again, I want to be an ambassador. I want to be a mentor for people playing Weiss specifically. Whilst I can't help with Vanguard in terms of rulings and things like that, I can still help Vanguard judges or want to be prospective Vanguard judges to understand floor rulings and understand, event mechanics and things like that. So again, if you've got any question regarding judging as a general thing and, the judge program, please feel free to ask. Chuck a question in the comments below. Join my Discord and ask a question in there, and I'll reply to you as soon as I can. So yeah, absolutely, please reach out. But that will be it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Again, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified of when I upload my next video. As well as that, please make sure you check out my other videos as well, and check out my other social medias. If you like this video, please make sure to leave a like to make sure that I know that you're enjoying this type of content and things like that. It's been getting some fantastic interactions in terms of my more informational videos. So if you're enjoying this, please again make sure you let me know by hitting that like button. But that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.